Hi, this is Gary Dranow from Park City, Utah, and the Gary Dranow Show, proudly broadcasting to you from Radio Evolve Rocks in Santa Barbara, California. Listen more and evolve. Welcome to the Gary Dranow Show. We have today a very special guest. Today's episode is powerful. I'm joined by Emma Zak, known musically as EMZ, aka Big Sexy, and we're diving deep into her 2025 album, Big Mama Drama. This is not just a collection of songs, it's raw, it's confessional, it's motherhood, heartbreak, survival, rebuilding, all told with warmth, grit, humor, and zero filters. Emma, welcome to the Gary Dranow Show. I'm glad to have you.
Hi, Gary. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
And let's start with the name, Big Sexy. That's bold, that's confident, that's playful. Where did that come from? Is it armor, celebration, irony, reclamation? What is it?
When I worked in New York City at a coffee shop called Mud Coffee on 9th Street, I worked there for 8 years while I was in New York. One of the chefs there, a younger guy who was about 18 and I was a little bit older, he was a little, skinny dude, and he would always call me Big Sexy. He was, so I would be collecting eggs or whatever. He would, thank you, Big Sexy. And I'm like, oh, don't call me that. And then all the chefs started calling me Big Sexy, and we had an open kitchen. So all the Mexican chefs would call me that, and they're, hey, Big Sexy. And I'm like, and so all the staff,
come on, star. Yeah.
So all the customers would hear it too. And then eventually just everyone started calling me that, which I didn't love. But anyway,
you got used to it, huh?
Well, I thought, and then someone said, you should call your band Big Sexy Music or Big Sexy. So I said, okay. But yeah, it just became a thing, and I never called myself that, obviously, but it stuck, and Big Sexy is still here. And I like to think of it as big heart, sexy attitude. So it's kind of, I have adopted it though, and much to my son's horror, he doesn't love it.
So my question is, well, how old is your son?
He's 7.
Aha. I'm surprised he doesn't like it at 7.
Oh, he does call me Big Sexy though.
Okay.
But he thinks
is Big Sexy different from Emma?
Yeah, I think Big Sexy grew out of we did several photo shoots back earlier in the piece, and that's when Big Sexy started to come out in terms of this character that I grew into really from these photos. Actually, that one of those, not that photo that you've got behind you, but the series before this. Emma and Big Sexy share the same sort of joy and playfulness, but I think maybe Big Sexy is more commanding or something. There was definitely a character in there that I grew into, and then I think I've grown out of it again, to be honest. I don't know.
My question for you is, has that persona evolved, or are you killing it?
It definitely did evolve until I had my child and everything kind of hit a standstill. I think my mojo's coming back, and I'm getting ready to go back on stage, I think. So I think Big Sexy is still there and ready to go. I think she just took a little hiatus for a while.
Yeah, have you been away from the stage for a while?
Yes, I came to the States in 2003 to New York. I'd been to the States before that too. I studied in Colorado a little bit earlier. And then I had stayed in New York from 2003 to 2018 when I got pregnant. And then I realized, I can't stay here because I don't have any health insurance, so I better leave. So that was kind of on a whim.
I don't even know. Does Australia have a socialized health insurance?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not as strong as it used to be, but it's definitely way more accommodating than the
Better
American
than
system.
what we have here,
Oh, for sure. So,
especially now.
oh my God. I mean, when I went to go get some blood tests after I found out I was pregnant, they said, "Oh, do you have insurance?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, these blood tests are going to cost you several $1,000s." And I said, "What do you mean? 3,000 or 7,000?" And she said, "Somewhere in between." And I was like, "What?" I said, "Oh, okay, I'll just buy a ticket back to Australia," which was cheaper.
Hmm.
Um, and then through all the pregnancy and birth, whatever, it cost me nothing. I left the hospital without a bill. They don't give, it's all free. So that wouldn't have been the case in
Fantastic.
America.
That is fantastic. Um,
So
uh,
yeah, I left in 2018. It turned out to be obviously good timing with COVID and all that sort of stuff. I missed all of that in New York, and I
yeah,
was in
yeah.
Australia. And also, Australia pays their single parents a a payment, security
Stipend.
payment. So yeah, well, it's more than that. It's almost it's a fully living wage. So
Oh,
I was kind
wow.
of set. Yeah, so it was the right choice, and I've been back to New York a couple times since then, which has been great. And hopefully, I'll be back soon. Yeah.
So you're not performing in Australia. You were performing in New York. Tell me a little bit about your music scene in New York. Where were you playing?
Yep.
What size venues? Were you successful at getting people to come out to see you? Things like that.
Yep. I started playing in New York probably 17 years ago, and I was working with a band called Crazy Mary, and they are heavily involved in the Lower East Side sort of music scene, and some of the leftovers from the CBGB crowd, and so it was kind of a robust um, rock and roll, punk rock sort of scene. Crazy Mary was is a psychedelic rock band and all sorts of influences. So I started playing with them, and our violin player used to be Andy Warhol's painting assistant. So
Wow.
he was Walter Stedding. He just passed away, unfortunately. Um, so he was actually produced by Andy Warhol as well. Some of his music. So he was kind of the link into this other world for me, anyway. And we played all over Manhattan, medium-sized clubs. A lot of we sort of got into a booking situation with a promoter there called Frank Wood and another promoter, Ann Hussick. So they curated a lot of shows over the years, and we had this massive network of bands that we were always playing with as well. So
So
like some of them,
community. You had community.
it was amazing community. It was just thriving, and we'd have a lineup with 5 bands or whatever, and everyone would come for all the show, and it was a rock and roll party. And Alan Merrill, I love rock and roll. He was part of the scene, the singer that sang "I Love Rock and Roll." He unfortunately also passed during COVID.
Rock and roll. Yeah.
So he was in our scene, and as a kid, I used to listen to his songs, and when I first met him, I was just blown away that we were in the same room. Really,
Uh-huh.
so we were playing at places that some of the places have disappeared now, but Sidewalk Cafe, which was one of our regulars, and I can't remember where, like the Delancey and
Are
several
are
other.
are any of these clubs where New York Dolls got their start, or were they
Um,
playing elsewhere?
Close. I mean, they were more in CBGB and stuff like that, weren't they? But Bowery Electric, and I mean, it was the same scene effectively, but sort of in a newer version of venue, I would say. But with Crazy Mary, I went all over. We went to London. We played in LA at the Whiskey A Go Go. We
Oh,
opened for Iron Barbecue.
what's the name of the guy that has International Pop Overthrow? Did uh,
David
David something?
back.
He was on my show. Did you get into his tour at all?
Yeah, we played with his outfit several times in New York. Um, yeah, he invited us a couple times, and we played the New York Marathon for years. That was one of the highlights, to be honest. That was just unbelievably energizing. Like it would set the tone for the whole year, really.
Was it
The
like
end
a
of
festival?
well, the marathon that
Yeah.
everyone they have little spots throughout the whole route of bands playing. So we played every year. I think we did like six or seven. And just so thousands of people running past, and you singing all day, singing for maybe 6 hours. Um,
Wow.
it's just
I,
amazing though,
I
the
I just
vibe.
I just did 2 hours last night and it almost killed me. And
Well, I was a lot younger then, and I was a lot fitter.
and
Um,
I'm not young.
yes, you are.
I'm having my 72nd birthday, March 10th.
Oh my goodness! Happy birthday! That's amazing.
Yeah. So and
So
I'm
yeah, we
still go
still
ahead.
kicking. Yeah, so
Yeah,
we
I'm
went
still
to
kicking.
I think music keeps you young. Yeah, we played in, as I said, LA at Whiskey A Go Go. We opened for Iron Butterfly. We went to, um, um, yeah, we went to London a couple times. We went to,
Did you play at the Cavern?
we played at the Portobello Festival. I can't. It's event at the Mau Mau, but that venue's gone now. We had seen this amazing band, Pink Cigar, in New York from London, and they were just awesome. So I went up to them afterwards, and I was like, "Oh man, I want to come to London and play with you guys." And they were like, "Oh yeah, come over." And so we ended up doing it, and so we played with them, and it was great. Um,
Wow.
New York just offered me. I mean, what got me into it was I watched a movie with one of my mentors, Arlene Schloss, who I live with on Broome Street in New York. She's an amazing artist. She showed me this movie, Downtown 81, which is with Michelle Basquiat and a whole plethora of um, musicians at the time. It's like a music documentary almost. Um, so I had seen all these amazing bands in this movie. One of whom was James Chance and the Contortionists. And so I'm watching this movie after I just arrived in New York. I thought, oh my god, this is amazing. I wish I was in this scene. How come I missed out on this? This is where I'm meant to be. And then literally 2 days later, I meet a saxophone and piano player, Robert Aaron, and he's like, "Oh, you should come to my show tomorrow night. I'm playing with James Chance." And I was like, "What?" So I got to
Just
go to this.
I don't know who James Tance is. Who is
Uh,
he?
James Chance is like a punk saxophone player,
Ah,
um,
okay.
and he's like new wave punk, and it's just sort of really amazingly out there. And he used to punch
Are
people
you
at his.
still in touch? Are you still in touch with him?
He also passed away
Oh,
recently.
dang it! I wanted you to get him on my show.
But you
Okay.
should look him up. He's really cool, and he ended up playing on my first solo album. And he ended up playing. I did a number of shows with him later on, which was kind of like a dream come true. So New York always kind of. New York is magical in the sense that you could sort of put a wish out on the wind, and then suddenly whatever you've wished for is actually happening the next day. Um, After I joined Crazy Mary, I started doing some of my own solo work. I did a lot of writing with Crazy Mary and songwriting collaboration and stuff. But
Were you the
I had,
Were you the lead singer at some point?
yeah, I was a lead singer in general. And I
Okay.
mean, Walter would sing sometimes, and Charles has a couple songs, but generally I was the front woman. Um, and at the same time, I was kind of, fiddling around with the ukulele and playing some piano and stuff. And I started writing some different kind of songs. And my piano teacher at the time, I said, "Oh, do you want to hear a couple of these songs that I've been writing?" And he was like, "Oh, well, let's stop teaching you the piano. Let's work on these songs," because he loved them. and that's when I started Big Sexy Music. And so we did an album together, and it kind of
So
morphed from
Big
there.
Sexy Music is your production, is your publishing company?
Yes.
Okay. You've lived between two worlds, Australia and New York. What did New York teach you musically? Stage confidence, toughness, performance swagger,
um,
all of the above?
yeah, I mean, New York, as I said, just sort of was this most magical experience, and I was always so well loved.
Received?
So
Received?
yeah, because I'm Australian, or I'm very open as well, and I'm also very very supportive of other musicians. So I always be out in the scene supporting. Um, I think New York just gave me a platform to be myself entirely. Sometimes I feel like when you're in your own home, people don't want to see your freedom of thought sometimes. So I feel
Hmm.
like that gave me a confidence, because I felt safe to express myself, even if it wasn't good. My band, Crazy Mary, they supported me so much. Charles Kybel, who runs the band, just amazing friend and supporter. And my bass player gave me a lot of singing lessons and stuff. So I listen back to my first albums and go, oh god, it's horrible. But I see a progression, and yeah, I think the stage, just something about being on stage, obviously with the lights and all the stuff, you kind of just transform. And I was always singing and dancing as a kid, and my dad had a camera, and I was always performing in front of the camera. So I was kind of used to that. Um,
Well,
and
I
I
was
don't.
tempted. I got some great pictures of you in action on stage, and I was tempted to use those on the background here. But this picture is just so cool that I had to go with it.
Yeah, my good friend Tawana, she is an amazing photographer. She's done a series of my photos that, yeah, this one's a good one. But yeah, I think on stage, I just let it all out, and I think about it a lot actually. Having that voice, being able to voice your opinions and emotions, and have that platform to release all of that was just so special. I think I took it for granted while I was there, to be honest, because I was just always there, and it was, I was performing a couple times a week and rehearsing a couple times a week, so it was just ingrained. But once it
With
was
Big
not,
Mary.
yeah, all of them. I was doing everything at once. So,
Everything, all the time, everywhere.
well, I just
We're coming up on our first break. I'm sorry to
okay.
interrupt you,
No,
but
it's okay.
we're going to take a 2 minute break and play some of your music for the clamoring crowds, and we'll be
Enjoy.
right back with
Okay.
Emma Zach.
All right.
Heart keeps beating faster, and I got something on my mind. Baby, it's you I'm after. I'm burning down. I'm burning down. I'm spinning round. The streets are vicious. They're vicious. I'm burning down. so heartless. I'm walking down this tired road, and man, I'm feeling dated. And all these people are stepping to me. Is this what I created?
And we're back with Emma Zach, talking about her wild times in New York, playing with Crazy Mary, and let's keep going down that road.
Okay. Should I continue on with the journey?
You should continue on.
After I started playing with Big Sexy Music, I was with a piano player called Stephen Downs, and he was just an amazing collaborator. And we were doing some shows in Harlem, and as he started to not want to be as involved, I was hosting a open mic in Harlem one night, and all these musicians came in, they set up. I didn't know them from Adam. And then this one guitar player starts playing this song, and I say, well, that song sounds really familiar. What's that song? And he said, oh, this is your song, Fallen Angel. I said, what? He goes, oh, yeah, I've learned all your songs. And I said, what? And so this gentleman who had worked with a friend of mine, so I didn't know him though, he had gone and learnt my whole catalogue. And at the end of the show, he said, oh, are you looking for a band? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, my bass player knows all your songs too. We'd like to be your band. And I was like,
wow, that's
awesome.
Absolutely wild.
I was like, awesome. And then a couple of, another time in Harlem, another lady came up to me, Carol Johnson, who used to sing with the Marvelettes. She said, girl, I want to come sing with you. And I thought she was just saying, being nice, but she meant it. She was like, I want to come and sing with you. I want to sing backups for you. I said, all right. She said, give me a call. And I never called because I thought she was not serious. But I used to have rehearsals every Monday on the dot at Funkadelic Studios in Times Square. And I used to post about it every week so everyone knew where I was. And then
did you live stream it all?
No, I just used to always put a little clip and, a photo. And so it was very regular. So one Monday, months later, the door opens and Carol Johnson walks in. And I said, what are you doing here? She said, girl, I told you to call me. You never called me. But here I am.
So she tracked me down. And so, I had all these amazing musicians join the crew.
And my drummer too, I asked him if he was an amazing jazz drummer. And I said, would you like to join my band? He said, no. I said, okay. And then he heard me sing and he said, oh, yeah, I would like to join your band. I said, all right. So we had this sort of amazing rotation of musicians that were kind of in and out when they wanted to come. But, I had a solid group as well. And we played together for maybe 5 years. And then one night in Harlem, as we're preparing to go on stage, this band was on called The Brothers. And in a club called Silvana up in Harlem, which we played all the time. This band was just cooking, man. They were cooking. And I was saying, they're going, wow, I could be in any venue and anywhere in the world, and this could be the best music I've ever heard in my life. And I was dancing and getting really into it. And then I sort of started having this feeling like, oh, my God, how am I going to follow this band? How are we going to follow this band? So afterwards, I said, oh, man, that was awesome. And the lead singer, Frank, he said, oh, I'm going to stick around, just watch one of your songs because I got to go. I said, no worries. Fast forward a year later, I'd been out to see his band a couple times now because, if I like a band, I'd go see them all the time. So at the end of one of his shows, he goes, yeah, I'm going to come check you out. And I was like, all right, whatever. So he did. The next show I did, he called me up the next day and said, look, I think you need a better band. I said, well, I could always do with more musicians. And he said, oh, I think we should start a band and we'll amalgamate our names, Big Sexy and the Brothers, and let's do something. And I said, okay. So I was thrilled because this guy is just amazing. And then we started.
Were they a black band or?
No, he's Puerto Rican.
Oh, okay. Bad Bunny.
Yeah. He's just phenomenal musician. So he sent me a track. He goes, I've got a track. You know, he was really good at producing and stuff too. And so was I. You know, we're both very agile on the computer. So he said, oh, you know, take this song and see what you can do with it. He sent it to me. I thought, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with this. But then I thought, okay, let me try something. You know, it was a little bit different to what I've been doing. Then I got sick, so I couldn't record it because I was quite sick for about 3 weeks. And he thought I was just being flaky. But I was like, no, I'm sick. You know, I can't record. And then eventually I sent him the song Hot Nights in Harlem, and he was really into it. So then we started back and forth thing, not only in rehearsal for real, like in real time, but he was sending me tracks, I was sending him tracks, and within 7 months we'd written 13 songs, and they were just hot, you know. And then we recorded it. And we were playing every other week too. So I kind of had like 3 different musical things going on at once. And it was great. I loved it.
Sounds, I mean, it sounds like a wonderful scene to be in if you're
it was an
aspiring musician.
it was amazing.
And what changed when you came back to Australia?
Well, I had been in New York, obviously, for 15 years, so the majority of my adult life. I came back to Australia I was kind of in the pinnacle of my career when I got pregnant. So it was a shock. You know, I was 40 years old. I thought, I didn't even think I could get pregnant. So I was like, this is interesting development. You know, I came back to a life that I'd left behind and had no real interest in reigniting. So that was a process
you have family in Australia?
I have my sister and my mum and I got a couple of nieces, and my dad lives in a different part of Australia. So I moved in with my sister, and she very kindly took me in and took me on for the throughout the pregnancy, and also for the first 6 months of my son's you know, childhood. It was a difficult process because I didn't have I was in a huge network of people in New York, uptown, downtown, you know, all around. I was always very heavily involved in any community. You know, I went to school there too, so I had heaps of people that I knew. So that was obviously a big change, to have no one that could understand my journey, no one that cared, really. They didn't care. My friends didn't care at all that I'd been in New York. So I felt kind of quite isolated, but in a sense it was really difficult. But I mean, also having a child alone is difficult, and all the things that go with that, the body changes and the hormones and the reassessment of self. And, you know, I felt like for many years I was in a house of mirrors. You know, everywhere I looked, it was just me. And I was like, oh God, here I am again. But it kind of let me process a lot of stuff. I realized that maybe my overproductivity in New York was a result of potentially anxiety. So there was a lot of things I kind of realized that I was operating on a level that wasn't sustainable in some way. But still had obviously all this emotion that needed to come out. So I was still writing, and I was still running off into my bedroom and recording stuff when I had ideas, which I've always done.
I'm just curious, what were you recording on?
I've just got like a little cheap interface, and like I don't even know what.
Focusrite 2i2 or
I don't even know what it is.
Frank, it red?
It's just like a little black box.
Okay.
It's got one input or 2 inputs, and then Frank, my guitar player from the Brothers, he bought me this interface because he was like, "What are you recording on with your vocals?" And I said, "Oh, just using my microphone on the computer." He goes, "What?" He goes, "You're getting this result from." He was like, "Let me buy you a real mic and see what you can do." So he was the one that kind of invested in me in that sense.
Did you start using a DAW, a digital audio workstation, like Pro Tools or Cubase?
I did learn Pro Tools at school, but I always use GarageBand just because that's what I learnt on, and that I'm a garage. Apple. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just always kind of running off into the cupboard, and if I had a little ditty in my head, I'd just sort of, get it out, and then maybe I work on it at night time a bit, and then maybe like 3 weeks later I'd go, oh, this sounds awful, and then I'd start it again. So I've always done that, and then eventually I had just built up quite a bit of material, and I thought, oh, maybe I should make something out of this, and that's kind of how the new album started.
So Big Mama Drama was recorded in Australia, right? Of course, it's 2025.
Yeah, baby mama drama. So
Baby Mama Drama. Yeah.
Yeah, and I never intended it to be released. I just sort of was working on it, and then I had been mixing and remixing these songs for maybe 2 years, and obviously I was at the point where I was like, I cannot listen to this anymore. Getting obsessed about, minute details as I do. And then I had spoken to a girlfriend in New York.
Just a little OCD.
Super OCD. I mean, every album I've done, I've become maybe less OCD, but still the same amount, but not as concentrated. Like the obsession is there, but I don't have to fulfill. I don't have to fix it if I would hear something before, I just obsess about it until I fix it. Whereas now I can note it, understand that I will fix it later. So
Got it.
I was in a severe OCD moment, and I had written to my girlfriend in New York, Anne Hussick, who had organized all these shows, and a good friend of mine. She's a rock and roll goddess. She said, oh, my drummer's looking for a project. He might be able to mix it for you. And I was like, oh, that'd be great. So immediately he messaged me. She must have messaged him immediately, and he messaged me. And I'd met him several times, but we weren't friends per se, but we were acquaintances. He said, oh, send me some songs. I'd love to do it. I've got, I've just retired. I've got some time. So I sent all the songs to him. And then he said, send me all the stems. And I thought, oh, no. Oh, no. It took me like months to organize all these vocals, which were just a dog's breakfast, because I'd never thought I was going to share them with anyone. So I had to go in and, tidy up 18 channels of vocals and get that all exported properly. So it was quite a process. But luckily, Roger, he was just as obsessive as I was, but in a different way. So he was obsessed about snare and different stuff. I was obsessed about these things, and he was obsessed about those things, but we could have this continual dialogue of obsession. So that was very comforting, because sometimes you just need someone to be in the weeds with. And he took the process on. He added all sorts of stuff. He really co-produced it in a way that brought it to full Technicolor. I gave him a sketch, I gave him a black and white sketch, and he gave me full color. He brought in a different emotion to it, and he brought in a lot of playfulness, because he was like, this album's kind of dark. And he added all these playful elements to sort of negate that and make it sound really playful, which I was kind of like, that's weird. And it was a great dichotomy. And we had just such a great working relationship over time zones. I'd send him all my notes, bombard him in the morning, and then he would send me all his...
Where was he?
He's in New York.
Okay. So big
as
time zone different.
Yeah, as he's waking up, I'm going to bed. And so I would be, he would send me a mix, and I'd be like, have to process it and then send him some feedback. So I would always try not to bombard him with my obsessions. But the beautiful thing about Roger was he just didn't take anything personally. Some people get offended if you want to do this or that. He was just, we could have a very open dialogue, and we really worked hard together for 2 years to get it done, including me going to New York and working with him in person. So it was just a beautiful thing for me, timing-wise as well. It really kind of focused me in a way that I needed to get out of some of my head. So, yeah, The main work I've done in Australia is sort of work in my cupboard, which is where I do my best work. And I'm still writing now.
And we have come to another break, and we'll be right back with Emma Zach and get even deeper in the weeds.
Started with a kiss in Brooklyn, took me by surprise. As I moved shelter closer, captured with your eyes. And then you rode into the distance, I watched you disappear. Now I'm sitting all alone, wishing you were here. I don't care who hears this, I don't care who knows. You're my reason for living, each day these feelings grow. I don't care who hears this, I don't care who knows. You're my reason for living. Oh, how it grows. Brooklyn kisses. Brooklyn. Now I wonder what you're doing. You're loving someone new. Even though we are apart, no, we can't be true. Oh, I saw my reflection deep within your soul. I lost all my direction, lost all my control. I don't care who hears this, I don't care who knows. You're my reason for living, each day these feelings grow. I don't care who hears this, I don't care who knows. You're my reason for living. Oh, how it grows.
And we're back with Emma Zach and her wild life between New York and Australia. So Emma, let's pick up where we left off.
Yes.
Jump right back in. So I got a question for you. If New York is rhythm and Australia is tone, what are they on this album?
What in terms of rhythm or tone, or both?
It's a not I'm not being technical. I'm just saying, okay, New York is rhythm, Australia's
Yep.
tone. What are they to the album?
Yep.
Where did the ingredients go?
Yep. Well, I think Roger brought in this New York vibe. He looks over at Central Park. He goes out and sees all sorts of music, from classical to opera to jazz and all the stuff. So he brought in that kind of New York vibe, I think, into these songs. And my side was more like an internal thing. So maybe like more of an insular, almost as just like a click track, to my emotions. And that's kind of what I gave him. Like I gave him a couple of beats and this sort of internal track, and he made it external. So it still has that rhythm of New York, I think, and the sort of playfulness and animation that New York has. And yeah, maybe more of this sort of grounded tone of Australia, sort of the earth, a grounding. Does that somehow bridge the gap?
It does. Where in Australia are you located?
I live in South Australia, Adelaide, which is in the kind of bottom part where it curls up. Yeah,
And
South
where's
Australia.
that in relation to Melbourne?
Melbourne is east. Yeah, it's
Okay.
like an hour flight from Adelaide. So there's Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide. And Adelaide is a festival state. We have a lot of festivals here, and the Fringe Festival, and I work for a Aboriginal Cultural Institute at the moment, we've just bumped in this big festival into our building. So I've been working there for 2 years, and I get to work with a lot of artists there as well. And I've been working with some Aboriginal First Nation bands in Australia, and so I've been in the scene, more helping and administrative work with artists. So it's still within the realm of music.
Okay. You don't name an album Baby Mama Drama unless you mean it. What did naming it that reclaimed you?
I back and forth about the album title quite a bit, and I always had that as my working title. A lot of people, and I asked people about it. They said, no, you don't want to do that. It's too obvious. It's too dramatic. I named it that because I was having some drama, maybe just with myself. I wanted it to be a message to other mothers, maybe, that
You didn't
this
suffer from postpartum depression or anything like that, right? Or did you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I was definitely not. I wouldn't say depressed, but I was definitely in a funk for a long time. The circumstance of my pregnancy weren't ideal, and it really did a number on me. And whenever I wanted to talk about my grievances with my friends or whatnot, people would say things like, well, you chose this, or that's just what dudes do, or you should feel blessed. And so I kind of was always met with this dismissive, just get over it, and you caused this, which I accept. I obviously I was there. But I had all these emotions that no one wanted to hear about, and I wasn't allowed to express. And so I just thought, well, maybe these songs are the only way I can be somewhat truthful about how I feel. And this is my baby mama drama. It was also kind of a message to the other party that, I'm still here and this is the drama. Because it was all about, reconciling these emotions of being a single mother, being kind of abandoned, and all the things that come with that.
Well,
I feel
let's
like
go
music.
into that a little deeper.
Yep, sure.
What happened? What happened?
Well, I got pregnant, obviously, and then
By accident, or yes,
it was. Yeah,
you said you didn't think you could even get pregnant.
I didn't think I could break. No, I thought I was infertile, to be honest. It happened. It was not planned. It was talked about though. It was kind of like, oh, let's do this. I was like, I don't think I can get pregnant at all. The guy I was with wasn't happy about it afterwards. He was pressuring me to make alternative decisions. And once I sort of decided
that's
that,
nasty, man. That's nasty, Emma.
I mean, he didn't. Yeah, that's on him. Once I realized that the support wasn't there and it was just contentious and not as difficult. And then with the health insurance stuff, I just thought, well, this is a better opportunity for me to just leave. I left, 2 weeks later after finding out I was pregnant, which was very abrupt. But
all in all, good timing.
It was good timing, and I think so many times how lucky I was to have a out, that I have a country that can support me. I would think often about my friends in New York that were single mothers and had no support. The fact that the government here does support single parents is phenomenal. I was able to stay home with my child for the first 5 years and look after him.
That's incredible. I mean, nothing like that here.
I know, and what a gift for both of us, like me and my son. So yeah, we stayed in contact while I was pregnant, me and the father, and then pretty much as soon as I gave birth, he was nowhere to be found. So I mean, I knew that was on the cards, but it was a bit more dramatic than I was hoping for.
New York. He was in New York, right?
Yeah, he's in New York,
All
and
right,
he didn't want to sign any paperwork, and he didn't want to do anything that he should have done, and whatever. So that was his choice. Probably the best choice for me anyway, but obviously again a hard pill to swallow at the time. And that's kind of where, when you have all this rumination and this sort of one-sided conversation that happens when these sort of circumstances arise, how do you process it? Especially if people don't want to talk about it with you.
So this was a wellspring of your creativity, right?
It really started out as this, it was, and it started out as this one-sided conversation. Like, I was kind of saying all this stuff to him in my head, like, and I'll be like, it's always when I'm doing the dishes for some reason. I'll be doing the dishes and I'm like, like, and then what usually starts out as a repetitive thought, then oh, that's a great lyric, and then I'd run off into and just record that. And so it was kind of my way of just releasing that and getting it into a different form. And that's why I love songwriting. It's whenever I was upset or I was trying to process emotion, if I can crystallize it down into some poetic structure, at least then I can put it in a format where I can just get it out, and then I don't have to think about it anymore. Obviously I think about different elements of it, but not that particular sentiment. And that's what I did with this.
That line, I walked through fire. I walked through the fire for the love of my son. When did that become an emotional center of the project?
I mean, that was the first song I wrote for this album, the title track, Baby Mama Drama. And that was, that was the conversation I'm talking about. I was kind of like, all these sort of questions I had about this guy. But at the end of the day, like, I do walk through this fire, which is kind of going through all these emotions, facing them, dealing with them, and also showing up as a parent and taking on the responsibility of doing this child raising by myself with the intent to do the best for my child. Meaning I'm going to provide for you financially. I'm going to provide for you emotionally. I'm going to protect you from whatever I can. So all those things, like, I feel like going through this is like walking through the fire, because you can't skirt around any of that. No matter how much you might be not involved, we might not have been deeply involved, but this process was deeply involved, like having a child with someone. So I'm not one to shy away from uncomfortable emotions. I think you have to walk through it. Otherwise you're not gonna get to the other side of it. And I honestly, I only feel like I've just come through the other side now. Like, it took me 7 years to feel kind of better about it, So it was a lot.
Got it. We're at our last break of the hour, and when we come back, we're going to do some deep dives into some of the songs, like Hold On, You're Weak, Alibi, and Things Change, and so we're going to jump into that when we come back. So we'll be
Awesome.
right back with Emma Zach.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. The more they stay the same. The more things change, the more they stay the same. The more they stay the same. You never said you were gonna change. I was chasing waterfalls after the rain. You never promised me anything. So it's time I got to let it go. I don't know how you can play this game. Well, baby, do you love the drama? Playing Russian roulette with karma. Oh, was it worth your 5 minutes of fame? Well, it's time I got to let it go. Empty promises, all the things you said, the way you made me feel, was it all in my head? Empty promises, all the things you said, count your blessings, and life is full of lessons. Oh, seasons come, seasons change, but for now I got to let it go. Empty promises.
And we're back with Emma Zach.
Hello.
So, Emma, let's jump
Yes.
into some of your songs, like Hold
All right.
On. Let's talk about Hold On. Opens the record. Why start there? Why were you holding on to? And what does that song represent emotionally?
I had written that song when I was in New York, actually, and it like hadn't progressed. So then it felt like the perfect sort of opener, because it was kind of this sentiment, and the whole album is, a trajectory of the journey. So it's not random. It's obviously curated in that way. Hold On was more like, well, the line that says, "Will you swim out to sea? Will you deliver me? Will you throw me a lifeline, baby?" Because you got to, and loving you is like trying to hold on to a river, like you can't hold on to a river, but what can I hold on to? I couldn't hold on to anything, and this guy wasn't throwing me a lifeline. It was about the first line, about listening to it, where has the love gone these days? It's just a sad song that plays on the record all day. So for me, it was kind of like this idea of like, where has the love gone? Where's the care gone? I'm trying to hold on to myself and hold on for dear life, but no one is throwing me a lifeline. So that kind of set the premise of like, not that I'm going to drown, but like it's very kind of high energy song. That maybe the anticipation of something that's going to happen that's good, and then it sort of takes a different turn.
By the way, everybody, I've listened to her music and it is very good.
Thank you.
Let's jump into Your Week. This one is a sharp, funny, furious song. How do you write a takedown without poisoning yourself in the process?
I think the wordplay for me is always the element that keeps it above drowning into something, that's not beneficial. For me, I love to put all the emotion in there and find the words that kind of make it witty and fun, but also real. And Your Week again started from this conversation, and that's how it started. I was doing the dishes thinking, man, you're weak. This is what I'm thinking.
You do a lot of thinking when you're doing the dishes, huh?
I do a lot. For some reason, when I'm doing it must be the water and the rhythm. I don't know. But I was thinking, you're weak. Your game, it ain't even strong, man. Like I was just like having this conversation. And because he, was sort of challenging the paternity of my child at this point, and questioning me, which I couldn't believe. And I just thought to myself,
it wasn't him?
Yeah, he wanted DNA tests. So that's where the chorus comes in, DNA don't lie. And then, because I was just kind of thinking, well, DNA don't lie. So yeah, and it was all about, him posting on Instagram all this sort of, esoteric, community, family orientated material. And then I'm thinking, well, in the background, mate, you're not even claiming your own son. So what's that about? So it's, yeah, I feel like the poetic nuances keep it on a higher plane, rather than sort of this mud throwing. I mean, there is a bit of mud slinging in there as well, obviously, but it's more intellectual than that, I think.
Is humor your shield?
I think it is, yeah. I hate confrontation. I hate all of that stuff, and I do use humor to potentially disband bad moments, but I also use it in a disparaging way sometimes as well against myself, which probably is just a way to keep people back. Yeah, I think it is. And sometimes it's not a good thing, but sometimes it's helpful, but sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm. What's the difference between calling someone out and setting yourself free?
um, I think there's an ambiguity. I mean, well, there's some non-ambiguity. I was just gonna say maybe it's ambiguous, but I'm like maybe not. The the pointedness of some of these songs. I think like I never intended to potentially call anyone out. I just wanted to bring attention to a universal problem that I'm not the only recipient of. You know, there are many single parents out there, male and female, that have problems with their co-parenting partner or non-present co-parenting partner. Um, I am calling out, um, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's
What was
okay. That's okay. Um, uh, Introspection. Here we go. Alibi and things change. Alibi feels inward, less fire, more reflective. And what pattern were you breaking?
Alibi in the sequence of songs is kind of a turning point in the album where I'm kind of thinking, well, um, maybe instead of focusing on this area, I need to find a new alibi for myself. And then there's a more kind of a more sort of hopeful playfulness comes into it. And just talking about the craziness of life. You know, life's so crazy, life's so intense, but I know I'm blessed, you know, and I still got this feeling, but still thinking about the past, but maybe I need to find a new story about it. Like maybe I can frame it in a different way, and find this different alibi to this story. And again, like Roger, with some of the elements that he brought in, the musical elements, just added a sort of different playfulness into it. And there's a lighter element and becomes more about me rather than him. You know, before the earlier in the album, it's sort of about him and my feelings about him. And then it sort of goes into this sort of emotional journey just with me and moving forward rather than looking back, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. We have come to the time where we're going to do the lightning round. One word answers if possible. This is the lightning round. It's supposed to be fun and viral energy. And let's start with hold on question mark.
Vibrant.
Okay. Baby mama drama.
Dramatic.
You're weak.
True.
What was that again?
True.
True. Okay. Keep my peace.
You gotta keep your own peace.
Okay. Voicemail.
Just leave it. You know, I don't want to talk about it. Just leave it on voicemail and I'll delete it later.
Got it. My mojo.
It's coming back, baby.
All right. That's great. What lyric almost didn't make the album?
Well, the on your week, you know, the chorus, DNA don't lie, mother. You know, that I nearly changed that to DNA don't lie, my brother, because I didn't want to have the swearing in it. But then Roger adamantly said, no, you got to have it. You got to have the swearing in there. So we left it in there.
So explicit track.
Explicit. Yeah, just the explicitness of, you know, I thought it maybe tame it down a bit. So, but we decided not to.
Good. Good for you. Big sexy in 3 words.
Oh no, have I lost you?
No, I'm right here.
Okay, good.
So I said big sexy in 3 words.
Energetic, dynamic, and real.
Fantastic. All right. So this was Emma Zach talking very candidly about her life and her experience with raising her now 7-year-old son, and the challenges she faced from New York coming to Australia and being supported by the Australian government, basically.
Thank you.
Is just fantastic that they do that.
Thank you, Australia.
Yeah, no kidding. And just to close this album, and I listened to it, this album is not just music, it's reclamation, it's storytelling without polish and without apology. Emma, thank you so much for your honesty, your strength, and your art. And to everyone who's listening, go stream Big Mama Drama, share it, support an independent artist, and we'll see you the next time. So, and we have just come up on the hour. So, Emma, you've been a welcome force in my show, and I'm so glad to have had you on my show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be with you and be in, Australia and America at the same time. Thank you so much.
Maybe I'll hook you up with my partner, Chris Zupa, and maybe we can all collaborate on a song. How about that?
I would love that. That'd be great.
We do it all the time, so...
that'd be awesome.
All right. I mean, I release a song every week.
Oh, well, I'm down. I've got my setup. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Big Sexy. I'll talk to you later. Thank you for being on my show. Everybody.
Thanks so much, Gary.
Leave your comments. I will make sure Emma responds. And from Gary Dranow and the Dranow Show and Emma Zach, out and bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.